Green Hill Farm was hidden away from the outside world. The dirt road leading to the farm wound through low hills, dusty and hazy in the dry season, muddy and difficult during the rains. Few people wanted to travel this far, and because of that, the place was unusually quiet. Lucas chose to live here precisely for that reason. Years ago, he had opportunities to leave. A relative from the town once offered to buy the land for a good price. They told him, raising sheep will never make you rich. You're wasting your life in a lonely place like this. Lucas only smiled. He never knew how to explain that. Waking up every morning to the sound of the wind, the scent of fresh grass, and the sight of sheep slowly walking out to the fields already felt like a full life to him. Lucas's flock was different from other flocks. They were rarely scattered. When they moved, they did so with order. The lambs stayed in the middle. The stronger sheep formed a circle around them. Whether Lucas was present or not, they kept their own rhythm. Once Lucas decided to test something, he intentionally walked slower behind them. The flock did not panic. Oliver, the old sheep, made a soft, low sound. The others adjusted their pace naturally, making sure number one was left behind. Lucas stood there for a long time watching. From then on, he began keeping notes. Not as a scientist, but as a student trying to understand lessons that were never spoken. That summer, a long drought arrived. The hills slowly turned yellow. The small stream east of the farm began to dry up. Lucas had to lead the flock farther each day to find water. The work grew heavier, the days more exhausting. One scorching afternoon, Lucas decided to guide the sheep toward the southern hillside, an area he had never taken them to before, because the path was steep and rocky. He believed there might still be green grass there, but Oliver stopped. The old sheep stood in front of the flock, refusing to move forward. The others slowed, then stopped completely. Lucas whistled and gestured, but Oliver remained still. Lucas felt annoyed. He walked ahead and looked where Oliver was staring. At first, he saw nothing. Then, as the sunlight shifted, he noticed deep cracks in the ground, clear signs of unstable soil caused by the drought. If the flock had climbed that slope, an accident could have happened. Lucas froze. He walked back and gently placed his hand on Oliver's head. "All right, Kasatu, understand?" he whispered. Thought from that day on, Lucas no longer saw Oliver's stubbornness as a problem. He began to believe that the sheep remembered the land-safe paths, dangerous places, things humans blinded by confidence often forgot. Then came the greatest trial. One late autumn night, violent winds rose without warning. The storm had not been forecast. Rain poured down relentlessly, thunder tearing through the sky. Lucas woke suddenly to the sound of the barn gate slamming back and forth. He threw on his coat and ran outside. Part of the sheep barn's roof had been torn away. Cold wind rushed inside. The sheep were panicking, bleating loudly. In the flashes of lightning, Lucas saw the northern fence near the streamhead. Collapsed water was rising fast. Lucas shouted, trying to guide the flock away from danger. But in the chaos of rain and darkness, the sheep ran in all directions. Then a sound cut through the storm. It wasn't loud, it wasn't frantic, it was Oliver. A deep, steady call repeated again and again. Slowly, the other sheep heard it. They stopped running. They turned toward Oliver Dot. Oliver began to move. Not fast, but firm and certain. The entire flock followed closely, sticking together, moving along a narrow trail that led to a small hill behind the barna, a place Lucas had always overlooked because it seemed unimportant. Within minutes, every sheep was safe on higher ground as floodwater rushed through the area below. Lucas stood in the rain, shaken not only from the cold, but from emotion. Without Oliver, without the unity of the flock, Green Hill Farm could have lost everything that night. After the storm, the farm was badly damaged. Fences were broken. Parts of the barn were ruined. The land was soaked and heavy with mud. Lucas spent weeks repairing what he could. But the greatest relief was this: the sheep were safe. Word about Green Hill Farm began to spread. Neighbors came to help rebuild. Some asked in disbelief, can sheep really guide each other like that? Lucas simply smiled and said they didn't guide the way. They cared for one another. From that time on, Lucas opened the farm to children from nearby villages. He didn't teach them how to raise sheep. He taught them how to observe how sheep stand close together when it's cold, how they wait for one another while moving, how Oliver always walks behind, never competing, never loud but always present when it matters most. And every evening, as the sunset painted the valley gold, Lucas sat on the old wooden fence, watching the flock slowly return to the barn. Dot Oliver still walked slowly, and no more sheep ever walked ahead and left him behind. Lucas finally understood that wasn't just intelligence, it was trust, and because of that trust, Green Hill Farm continued to stand quietly, steadily and wisely, just like the intelligent sheep that called it home. Time passed and Green Hill Farm slowly changed, not in size, but in spirit. After the great storm, Lucas became more attentive to the smallest details of the land. He noticed how the soil smelled different before rain, how the wind carried warnings long before clouds appeared, and how the sheep reacted to things he could not yet see. Oliver was growing older. His steps were slower than before, and his legs sometimes trembled after long walks. Lucas began to worry. He adjusted the daily routes, shortened the distance to water, and made sure Oliver never had to struggle to keep up. But Oliver never complained. He still walked at the back of the flock, watching carefully, listening, remembering. One spring morning, something new happened. A group of young sheep began to show signs of independence. They moved faster, explored farther, and sometimes ignored Lucas's whistles. At first, Lucas felt uneasy. He feared the flock might lose its balance without Oliver's constant presence. But Oliver did not interfere. Instead, he observed. When the younger sheep rushed ahead too quickly, Oliver would stop. The rest of the flock would pause as well. Slowly, the younger ones learned to turn back, to wait, to move together again. Lucas realized then that Oliver was teaching without force, without commands. He was passing on wisdom. That same year, a long drought returned, harsher than the one before. Grass disappeared quickly, and nearby farms began selling their sheep, unable to feed them. Traders came to Green Hill Farm with tempting offers. "You should sell now," they told Lucas, "before it's too late." Lucas looked at his flock. He looked at Oliver, and he refused. Instead of selling, Lucas did something unusual. He opened the northern pasture that had been untouched for years, trusting the flock to guide him through it safely. Once again, Oliver led not to the richest grass, but to the land that could sustain them the longest. They survived the drought. Other farms did not. People started coming, not just to help, but to learn. Farmers asked Lucas how he trained his sheep to behave that way. Lucas always shook his head. "I didn't train them," he said. "I listened to them." As years went by, Oliver's time grew shorter. One quiet autumn evening, Lucas found Oliver resting beneath an old oak tree, separate from the flock, but still within sight of them. The sun was low, casting long shadows across the field. Lucas sat beside him. He did not speak. He did not need to. That night, Oliver passed away peacefully. The next morning, something remarkable happened. The flock moved differently, but not chaotically. One of the younger sheep stepped naturally into Oliver's role. It did not lead loudly. It did not rush. It simply waited when needed, and the others followed. Lucas watched with tears in his eyes. He understood then that true intelligence was not bound to one individual. It lived in the memory of the flock, in shared experience, in trust passed quietly from one generation to the next. Green Hill Farm continued to exist, unchanged in appearance, yet richer than ever. Not because it grew bigger, not because it became famous, but because it remembered what truly mattered. And every evening, when the wind brushed softly across the hills and the sheep returned home together, Lucas felt certain of one thing. Some wisdom does not need words. It only needs time and the courage to listen.